On this day in history, 1984, Space Shuttle Challenger astronaut Catherine Sullivan became the first American woman to walk in space. That's one way you get the guys to notice you girls, and for the right reasons too. But seriously, ladies, if you want a man to look at your face and not your chest, eat a banana. Live from Wattpad Nation, it's the Corner Booth, your weekly chat where we talk about all things centered around the big orange W. And we have a great panel for you tonight. We are talking about these 4 Wattpad superstars. In my opinion, they're superstars to me. We have Sarah Benson, Rita Kovach, David J13, and Camille Eckert. And we hopefully are going to bring you something that is going to really show you what is beneath these writers, beneath the words, where they come from, emotional ties, so on and so forth. This episode, our 28th episode, is entitled Breakup, Breakdown, Breakthrough. And we're really excited to bring it to you. So, that being said, we are going to do something hopefully fun for the high five. I floated this idea to the panel before the broadcast, and I think some of them were a little, I don't know, reluctant to say yes. But we're doing it anyways. It's going to be kind of a test of trivia over classic quotes from literature over time. Now, I know that you can't see this, audience, but we have this chat that runs through this video. And it's a way for us to converse during the broadcast, but it's also a way for them to buzz in when they know the answer. So, panel, what I'm going to do is I'm going to read you a quote, and I want you to tell me, you don't have to go as far as the author. I'll make it a little easier for you. But I would like you to name the title of the book. So here we go, round 1. And these points that I'm giving them, it's to, buy a fictional something. I don't know. I haven't thought that far ahead. Okay, so this one is pretty simple. Yeah, I'm going to go with this. It was the best of times. It was the worst of times. Ah, Camille, right away. Oh my God.
I totally cheated and just did a beat.
I saw that. I didn't know if you were trying to say like a naughty word. Okay, well, what do you got?
Now I forgot. Tale of Two Cities.
Yes, correct. Camille, first on the
All right, now I'm
board.
going to sit back and relax.
Yeah, you just had to get one in so you weren't completely shut out, right?
Yeah.
Okay. All right. Let's step this up a notch. Oh, this might be a little tougher. I didn't really think about this ahead of time. Most men and women will grow up to love their servitude and will never dream of revolution. Ooh, I wonder if anybody in the hang on. We do have live chat going on. So hello, people in the live chat. We have Sarah and is anybody else playing on it? I see Sarah's name. Rita's on there. We have Lucy, Ricky, what's up? I'm May, hello. And who else do we have up here? Did anybody else? Jody, hello. Carl, what's up? Does anybody know it? Okay, it is from a book called Brave New World. Okay.
Didn't Huxley write that? I know who wrote it.
Read it too long ago.
Yes. This is actually from one of my favorite books of all time, so hopefully you get it. And so we beat on, boats against the current, borne back ceaselessly into the past. Oh, no! Well, I will tell you that there is this director. His name's Baz Luhrmann. He made an adaptation starring Leonardo DiCaprio.
Oh,
Rita, what do you got?
Romeo and Juliet.
Ooh, so close. Oh.
That's what I was thinking.
It is actually.
My buzz is working.
Oh, I'm sorry, David. What do you got?
The Great Gatsby.
Yes, sir.
Oh,
ding,
yeah.
ding. Yes. Wow. All right. Okay. So let's see if okay. This is my sister's favorite book. Hopefully you guys can get this too. Christmas won't be Christmas without any presents. Yes, Sarah.
Oh, wait. All of a sudden my mind went blank. Christmas won't be Christmas without any presents.
As Sarah starts to Google it.
Okay. My long answer here. No. It's a
Brad, do you know it?
Go ahead. Oh, she is Googling. I can hear someone typing over there.
Ah!
I'm not Googling.
It is from a little story called Little Women.
Ah,
yes.
Sorry, I shouldn't have buzzed.
All right, so I got a tie between Cammy and David. Hopefully we can break this. And this one's actually fairly easy. Well, I think it's fairly easy. I meant what I said, and I said what I meant. An elephant's faithful 100%. Yes, Sarah.
Horton, here's a who.
Yeah. There you go. If you want to know how to get to Sarah, just start throwing out some Seuss.
I know it's sad that I didn't get the last one because I've read that book like a couple times.
Oh man, I love that book. So good. All right, let's. Oh man, I have all of these, and I know that we can't do them all. But how about this one? Let's hopefully one of you guys takes the lead, and we can end this. My name is Inigo Montoya. You killed my father. Prepare to die.
Almost there.
I got it, I think, right?
Yeah.
Princess Bride.
Yes, ding! Ah, Sarah wins. Very nice. And now that we just wanted to have a little fun with y'all, we are going over to my favorite portion of the broadcast. It is called Cream or Sugar. Why is it my favorite portion? Because it gives us a chance to put you, Wattpad Nation, in the spotlight. Cream is a relatively unknown Wattpadder who's risen to the surface, or at least this panel's library, and Sugar is an established Wattpadder, whom you want to show some love. So, panel, I will start with Miss Camille Eckert. Who do you have for your Cream or Sugar shot?
I have the winner of the teen writing contest that I held. Her name is Et Fly Through Fire, and her story is Moonborn, and it's this amazing fantasy story about space-hopping dragons, and it has a really strong female protagonist. When the book begins, Evelyn, the protagonist, is recovering from the loss of her dragon, and Fly Through Fire does a beautiful job bringing you into this whole new world, a world that I'd never seen before. She was chosen as the best out of numerous entries by 7 different judges, and I really suggest everyone go and take a look if you want to see a teen who has some amazing talent and will just put you to shame. Go check her out.
I hate it when teenagers just like, oh man,
I know.
why are you so awesome? How are you so awesome?
Younger, faster, and better, I tell you.
The experience comes in somewhere, right? It's not a sexual statement at all. Mr. David J. 13!
Hi. My shout out is for a cream, Heather Coyle, H_Coyle on Wattpad. She has a new book out called The Anchored, and it's a very unique, sort of surreal story about the afterlife. Because of the subject matter, it reminds me a little of Lovely Bones, but it's really her own thing, and she's... I read a work from her called A Pound of Flesh last year, and I really enjoyed it, but she's really upped her game with this. It's a very spectacular piece of writing on Wattpad, and I would suggest everybody to go out and read it.
Thank you, David. She's not a teenager, too, is she?
No, she's not.
It's going to start getting really depressing. Come on, older people. Miss Rita, who do you got for us this week?
Okay, so my cream shout out today is for an undiscovered paranormal romance that deserves more reads. It's called The Deception Dance, and its author is Rita Stradling. She has actually self-published this book and its sequel, but the first installment is available on Wattpad in its entirety. The story centers around 18-year-old Raven Smith, who's about to set off on a summer-long European adventure with her older sister and the sister's college roommate. And of course, within days of arriving in Rome, this is a paranormal romance, so she meets not one but 2 mysterious and handsome strangers who are definitely more than they appear. And I'm really enjoying this book, including its international aspect, along with the tidbits about art and architecture that the author has woven into the story. And incidentally, she does have an art history background similar to me, so that might be a reason, other than our shared names.
Yeah.
The characters are very well developed from page 1, and you're just drawn into the mystery along with the main character. So again, that's The Deception Dance by Rita Stradling.
Oh, thank you, Miss Rita. Sarah, who do you got for us this week?
All right, my shout out is for Blood Fever by Stephanie Draven. And so this little background on this story. It involves a sacred medallion that is sacred to this tribe, the Tikini tribes. And so Talia is the name of the main character. And when she touches this medallion, she finds out that she's born to lead these people. But her father is kind of an obstacle in her way. And so anyway, she upsets her father, and in the process, she's stripped of her status and sent to exile. So I find these stories very interesting when you have a strong protagonist, especially in this case, a female who knows her mind and what she wants to accomplish. And despite whatever obstacles are thrown in her way, she keeps pushing for that dream. So anyway, the title Blood Fever, it refers to this condition that's brought on by the medallion. And it's so, in a way, it's kind of a little bit similar to the One Ring, how anybody who holds it can end up being overcome by the power of it and end up kind of losing their way. So what I really love about Talia, she's got this fiery personality. She's stubborn, unyielding when it comes to what she wants, but she's also the reason behind what she's doing is because she is looking around her at the way the people are being treated and the slavery and just everything that is difficult about their lives, and she wants to like change things, and she knows that she needs to be in a position of power to do that. So and then what makes it more interesting as well is it's not just her ability to gain power and gain the trust of the people, but also she can survive the blood fever as well. So anyway, I find this story very interesting. She's a professional writer, and she also writes historical romance, which I find very interesting and good crossover. And I just am really, really enjoying the story. The characters are well drawn, and she's an excellent writer. So check out Blood Fever by Stephanie Draven. Draven. I'm not sure how to pronounce that.
It's okay. I butcher names all the time. Don't worry about it. It's fine. Thank you so much, panel. Which is just going to take us over to the meat of our discussion, which we call the entree, and we're going to bring that to you. Like I said, it's the episode is entitled Breakup, Breakdown, Breakthrough. The best description that I have for you is this. It's also located down below this video with the panel's links. And also the Just Write It challenge link if you're looking to challenge yourself. But essentially, sometimes the toughest times create the best art. How do you channel the negativity and make something beautiful? That's what we want to really dig into tonight. And Rita, I wanted you to kind of kick this off. There are many noteworthy authors out there who have turned lemons into lemonade. And I'd like for you to share with us one of these authors and tell us why you have chosen him or her. As soon as we can hear you. That's cool.
Yeah, sorry, I forgot about that. So, to begin, the most well-known anecdotes with regards to this question are probably about how many rejections Stephen King or J.K. Rowling each got on their first manuscripts and how they were on the verge of giving up on writing altogether before they got their magical big breaks. While this definitely shows that the publishing industry is subjective and even the potentially best writers don't appeal to everyone, I actually found an even more dramatic turning lemons into the lemonade example. So you guys may have heard of L.J. Smith, who's the author of the Vampire Diaries and Secret Circle series of books, both of which have also been turned into popular television shows. Well, she was actually fired by her publisher in 2011 after she had written 7 books in the Diaries series and 3 in the Circle series over a span of 20 years. Now, this was possible because Smith had been initially contracted to work for hire, so her publisher actually owned the rights to both of these series, even though they were stories and characters that she had created. And they apparently, or the rumor is that they weren't happy with the direction she was taking the stories. But Smith didn't give up, and in what the Wall Street Journal called one of the strangest comebacks in literary history, in 2014, she began to self-publish stories featuring a parallel Vampire Diaries universe with the same characters under the guise of fan fiction. So by then, fan fiction had evolved into its own genre, and the lawyers had gone through it legally. They found that it wasn't copyright infringement, so she was basically fan fictioning her own original characters. So not only was she able to put out original work this way, using the characters she created, but she's also making her fans happy who wanted to stick with her storyline. So there is definitely life after setback. You just sometimes have to get very creative with the way you handle it.
Oh yeah, that is pretty creative. Thank you so much, Rita. I love
Good story.
Oh, so good. All right, so question number 1, and I want to remind you, if you're watching this live, we hope you are, please, please, please do not shy away from asking us questions. We will answer them in real time. You can use the live chat, which is right next to this video on YouTube if you're accessing it through a computer, or you can use our hashtag on Twitter, TCBWatt. You can angle your questions toward any given panelist, or just, kind of make a general question. We'll be happy to answer. But as far as what we got for you tonight, question number 1. So much can weigh us down as we write. What are some of the obstacles you face, and how do you overcome them? I'm actually going to start with our buddy David J13 helping me represent the XY chromosome. Yeah.
Okay, I think everybody, whether you're a writer or not, you get pushed down by tragedies, setbacks, things in your life to just get you down. And as a writer, it becomes a huge challenge because anything that affects our motivation can be debilitating. And for myself, I really enjoy writing. Writing for me is most of the time anyhow, is an outlet of joy. So when I am feeling down, or I don't want to do it. I don't want to have anything. I don't want to listen to songs that make me happy. I don't want anything like that. And so it does become difficult. And I did have some emotional problems last year.
David, is anybody else getting a jumble?
I'm getting that as well.
Okay, David, can you still hear us?
Problems that a father was to do with. Sorry?
You're skipping a lot.
Sorry.
No, you're okay. We just want to make sure that we're getting all of this really great stuff.
Okay, I'll slow it down. So what I found to do is just to compartmentalize. I would sit down and write and say, now is my time to write. I'm not going to stop just because of this. And I'd set it aside, and knowing it would be waiting for me when I was done, and it wasn't not paying it its fair attention or giving it the weight it deserved. But I said, this is part of my life too, and I want to continue with it.
Oh, absolutely. Thank you so much, David. I like that, compartmentalize. That's a great word for that. Miss Rita.
Okay, so my biggest go-to obstacle is time, but even when I have time, I have to agree with David. I struggle to start writing due to motivation. So unfortunately for me, at least, those two things must both be present to write productively, and when one of them is missing, I get nowhere. So while I have little control over time, I can influence motivation a little bit more, and I found that the best remedies to get myself motivated and put the words on paper is to either read, listen to music, or just tune out completely. And by this last one, I mean doing something that doesn't require thinking. Go for a walk, wash the dishes, paint the house, whatever. Maybe you'll be productive too. The weird thing is sometimes the best thing for your brain is to just let it relax, and when it does, the ideas will flow. I mean, I think that's probably why we get like our best ideas when like we're in the shower or just driving or trying to fall asleep, because we're not trying to force it. So that's just kind of use that idea and then that for motivation, and just don't force it.
Oh, absolutely. Man, I need to start doing that, thinking about writing ideas instead of trying to sing in the shower. That'd be great. Yeah. I'm sure my neighbors would appreciate it too. Oh, Miss Camille, what do you got for us?
For me, the two things that weigh me down the most when I write are guilt and doubt. Guilt kind of goes into Rita's time thing. I have, 2 small kids and a husband, and whenever and for some reason they like to hang out with me. I don't know why.
I have no idea.
No idea.
Like personable or fun to be around.
I know. And so whenever I'm writing and they're around, I always struggle with guilt, and my kids love my writing, but they hate it as well. And so I've been waking up at like 4 or 5 in the morning lately and just having an hour or 2 hours to myself where I know everyone's asleep, no one's going to bug me, I'm not going to feel guilty that I'm not hanging out with them. So that's kind of how I've been curing the guilt. But as for the doubt, I think all writers suffer from it, and if anyone has a cure, please PM me. I would love it, because I don't have one for it.
It's actually an at-home remedy. You just squeeze a penny between your big toes and think about 3 bald guys. That's how you do it. I don't know. Miss Sarah, what do you got?
Nat, you should never be a doctor or
never.
psychologist or anything like that. Well, I think everyone answered the question pretty well and in a very similar way to my answer. So yeah, I mean, more than anything, the things that hold me up is just lack of time and doubt, you know. So I think David's answer on compartmentalizing is really smart. It makes a lot of sense. It's very easy to just get overwhelmed with the sheer number of possible things you could be doing, especially when you go beyond writing and actually try to promote your books, because, you know, you could be on Twitter, you could be on Facebook, you can be, you know, there's so many areas you could be focusing and lose sight of what your overall goal is. And it's interesting you asked this, because just this week I've had to kind of pull back and actually make a mind map and basically a mind map, if you don't know what that is, it's like where you just break down, like for example, I have writing bubble, and then I'll have a bubble coming off that, you know, with a particular story or my social media or whatever I'm trying to do, and break down what it is I'm trying to accomplish so I can look at it big picture, and then from that make smaller, manageable goals that I can like plug into each day. Because if I don't do that, then I start to lose sight. I think one thing that my husband and I were talking about is the most important thing you could do as a writer, you know, all the other stuff is good, but if you're not continuing to write and put out more content, what do you have to tweet about or Facebook about or whatever? I mean, you need to keep producing material to keep your readers happy. So I think that what really helped by doing this is I realized that I was putting my time sometimes into things that weren't giving me much back in return. And so I had to like be very honest with myself, you know, is it worth it? And it's hard sometimes because some of these things we find very enjoyable. And everybody has their things, whether it's, you know, watching a show on, you know, shows on TV. And it's not that it's bad in and of itself, but maybe you're starting to do it so often that you don't have time for writing, or socializing on, you know, online or shopping or whatever it is. You know, it's those extra things that you have to look to cut back, because if you, like most of the people here, if you have family, you don't want to give up too much time there. And then, you know, you just got to make those tough choices. And then the other one is that inner critic. And if your motivation is sapped, you know, it kind of kills your desire to write. And before you know it, all those excuses, or all those like, not, you know, fun things to do that allow you to shut off your brain and not make you work, they kind of like call to you. And unless you have a plan as to how you're going to do that, a lot of times you can like start to like lose ground. And so for me, I'm like Camille. I get up at 4 o'clock in the morning, and it's like if I get up, I'm too tired to talk myself out of writing. I don't know, and so I just start writing, and I like the first of the day because I have a lot on my plate, and I tend to get kind of bogged down thinking about everything that needs to happen with my family and me, and at the beginning of the day, I don't have to think about any of that yet. So it helps to just have that creative time to like put a couple hours in at least every day. And if I could do more, great, but at least I'd have that. So I find that if I don't get that, you know, I get kind of cranky, hard to be around. So
it sounds crazy to say, and I know that everybody has like those moments, but I can't imagine you cranky. Like, that's just, I don't know, it would be weird. I would just think, oh man, the whole illusion is shattered. I feel
yeah.
No, it's fine.
Oh, Nat, it would be so shattered very quickly.
I just kind of want Sarah to get irritated with me for no reason, just so I can know how it feels. No, it's okay. I have plenty of women that do that to me anyways. So anyways, I have a question that's specifically gear-headed for Sarah and David. David, if you wouldn't mind answering this first.
Okay.
For a number of Wattpadders, writing is an emotional outlet, and as we've said already during this broadcast. Now, I know it is for you, but can you dig a little bit deeper on why it's such a great emotional outlet for you?
I just think, you know, writing is such a personal act. You know, you're putting your thoughts and your feelings down on paper, and emotion is such a huge part of it because it's what sort of brings your characters to life. It's the emotion and the empathy you have for them, and it's sort of getting into their skin and feeling what they feel. And I think that's how I approach it with my writing. Is that's, you know, it's sort of that old, you know, thing. You're not going to make anybody tear up reading your story if you know, you're not tearing up writing it. You know, or you know, you're not. Nobody's going to laugh if you're not laughing while you're writing it. This works the same way.
Well, sometimes I'm just in one of those moods where I think that I'm hilarious, but nobody else does. What about you, Sarah?
Yeah, absolutely. That I do find it quite an emotional outlet, and like I said earlier, if I haven't written for a few days, you know, I'm not very fun to be around because I just need some kind of creative release in the process, and I do find that with my writing. And I think there are some things that I can't really explain very well verbally, and for whatever reason, I guess there's a lot of writers, I'm able to express it through my words, and so it's just neat that I have that outlet to be able to do that.
And not only that, but you have an audience to share it with. Using Wattpad, it seems almost instantly, if you've accrued somewhat of an audience, they are going to usually read it fairly quickly. So that sounding board has got to feel really, really great. All right, that's going to take us over to question number 2. Sometimes we're scared to share certain experiences, so we weave them into fictional characters. Tell us about something of yourself you've placed inside a character. Why did you choose to do this? And if you've never done this, is there a reason you distance yourself from the narrative? And I'm going to start with Miss Camille.
Well, I haven't really put a certain character trait or anything or incident into a character, but I have taken an incident in my life, one that wasn't very traumatic, but it was a moment where I was really weak and kind of pathetic, and I've now included it, 2 different versions of it in 2 stories I've written. What I find fascinating about it, though, and I think it's my way of kind of trying to deal with the situation in a way that I wish hindsight I had dealt with it, but what I find fascinating now, and I won't let you guys deal with this, I'll save it for the shrink, but I've yet to write it, I've yet to change the ending. Every time I've written this type of scene, I've still made my main character pathetic at the end, and I don't know why I haven't changed it, and the only thing I can think of is maybe I'm hoping someone will learn from it and not be like I was in the situation. But yeah, so that's a certain event from my life that I've now, I think, tried to deal with in writing twice and apparently failed miserably.
Well, you don't know that until you actually try. You know, I mean,
I've
you gotta put it out
tried.
there. At a certain point, you got to put it out there. Have you shared it with anybody?
Yeah, it's actually, well, no, that's not true. I'm sorry. It's coming out in my book right now that I'm posting currently. So
Okay,
my
so you'll
readers,
know in the future, very close. If
yeah,
it's
it's
working or
going to
not.
be interesting to see if they think it's as pathetic as I do. So
Oh, no, I have a feeling that's going to fly over really, really well. All right, Miss Rita, what do you got?
Well, you know, Nat, secretly I'm a pirate king, so I wrote this little book
I
about it.
that too, but I just think that you were very reluctant in doing it, so I was like, nah, that can't be real. It's fine. If Rita's going to be a pirate queen, she's going to own it.
Exactly. No, but seriously, there is so much of me in the main character from my other series, Waters of Oblivion and the sequel Gods of Sorrow, that sometimes I wonder if I'm not also immortal like I've made her to be. I would never base another story on such autobiographical content, but because this was my first book, I guess I couldn't help but draw on my own experiences, likes, and wishes. For example, she's an art historian, she's afraid of drowning, and she's torn between 2 people who are both good and bad for her. Heck, she even works at the same university I used to work at and even drives the same car I still drive. So I bet, you know, like Camille said, a psychologist would have a field day with this, and if he was to examine the similarities between the book and my real life, he'd find that perhaps I was trying to maybe justify the choices that I've made or something to that effect, but who knows. I may have just been misled by the write what you know mantra or myth. Either way,
I'm not rejecting. I'm writing what I know. Leave me alone.
it was both a hard and easy book to write. It was easy because I knew what I wanted in it. I mean, a lot of things were from my own experiences, but it was also hard because I needed it to be perfect for those same reasons. But after 4 years, both books are done, and even though it's probably my worst writing technically, the story will always be the closest one to my heart.
That's great. That's really wonderful. I mean, I know for a fact that your mechanics are sound, but at the same time, the more you write, the more you're self-critical you're going to be, and especially when you read that first chapter or that first, frame of time that you just started writing, you're going to look back on that, especially after 2 books, and say, what was I thinking at this moment or that moment? But when you're writing it so close to the bone, absolutely, I can't see you not being proud of that, and that's great, Rita. David, what do you got for us?
I really try to rack my brain for some character I kind of try to sneak something of my own life into that I can work my way through.
From Transylvania, right?
So, yeah, I couldn't really come up with anything specific, but I'm constantly pulling things from my life in these little moments and just altering them and changing them and giving them to my characters and to the scenes. And if I ask them why I don't make it more autobiographical, and I just keep it on this sort of fringe level of using sort of the detritus of my life, it's probably because I've always been sort of an introvert, and there is that sort of wall that, I don't, I can do anything with a character, but I wouldn't want that character to be me.
Well, okay, so you're saying, I love the fact that you said, I'm an introvert. I think in a large part of the writing community are introverts, but introverts usually have the most fascinating eccentricities, little quirks and things. The human foibles are amazing. But is there something that you do that's just kind of, wow, that's kind of peculiar, so I'm going to feed that to a character and have it be their own?
Yeah. Well, there was one thing in my book, Mr. 8. I did something with the main character's relationship with his wife. Something I have with my wife. We have little rituals. So every Friday night is a date night. When we say goodbye in the morning, we say the exact same things and that. So I kind of work that in a little differently. I gave them they kiss in a certain pattern every time they leave. And it was funny, the response I got. It was just that I think more than anything in that book made people relate to those 2 characters.
Well, it's that layer of reality. Even though it might seem strange or weird or just out of place, sometimes off-centered hits right on the mark. So that's great. I mean, I love that. Sarah, what do you got for us?
Yeah, I'm kind of similar to David. I mean, especially in fantasy, I take my characters and I throw them in situations so removed from what I do because it's fun for me. But I think I don't consciously think ever I want to bring this element of my life into my characters. But with that being said, as I write my characters, certainly some of my life does start to filter in. So one example of that I found was when I was writing Born of Shadow. My main character, Camille, she has this kind of sense of inferiority, a little bit about her life situation, and I definitely related quite a bit to that. And I didn't grow up a minority, but I definitely struggled with not having much money, and which is another. So she struggles with both her skin color and poverty. So anyway, as a part of this, I learned at a young age that we didn't have a whole lot of physical things. We had a lot of love, but not a lot of physical things. And if I wanted those, I needed to work for them. And so I remember, for example, at a young age, I did pretty much every type of job that you could think of. I babysat, I cleaned houses, I mowed lawns, any job you could think of, I did it. And so I remember one time I was pushing a lawnmower across town to 3 or 4 blocks away. And these kids drove by and they're all just pointing and laughing at me. And, as a kid, you're just a little, you're just, these things hurt a little bit that you're being judged, for your life situation. And so I definitely took those feelings and brought them to Camille in her story, because she, like I said, is she's half Egyptian, half American, and so as many who I've talked to many people actually that are multiracial, and everyone is they look at them and they can't really figure out who they are, and they all try to make guesses, and sometimes they can be cruel about the way they treat them. And so she's got this kind of sense of inferiority about how she deals with it. She works hard, she saves up her money, buys clothes, makeup, whatever, so she can fit in. But then over the course of the story, she's trying to figure out why she even cared about fitting in the first place. So anyway, that's just like one example of many that I bring into the story, and like little pieces, little ways. But I think when you bring those personal experiences in, that people relate to them, they connect to them. Just like David said with the husband and the wife, you know, having these little rituals, these things they do. But everyone has their rituals. Everyone has their things that they do. And when you set those things out, you make those specific, then people are like for example, with my characters, I had actually many people relate to Cammie's situation with her mother. Like, that wasn't personal, but for them it was. So it was interesting.
Oh, yeah, that is, because you're making a connection that you just kind of imagined, and then all of a sudden the character gets a little bit of rigidity, and which is what you want, but I don't know. Yeah, that's amazing. It really is. That's great. All right, let's scoot on over. Miss Camille, while I got you here, I know that you've spent some time away from your family, from your loved ones, and when you're away from them, I'm going to assume the situation affects your writing to some degree. Can you share with us on that topic?
Yeah, actually, I was kind of raised this way, so I'm very used to being separated from my family, my immediate family. So it's very normal to me. But I actually got back into writing when my husband was sent to Iraq for a year. I hadn't written anything since college. And he was gone, and I was in a new town. I didn't know anyone.
I know that you've spent some time.
And I didn't know anyone, and I had 2 kids to raise alone, so I kind of did it as something to distract myself from the very real threat that he was in. And I think that a lot of my mindset at that time took root in the return, because the story is ultimately about a couple who is so in love that despite being separated by death, she gets resurrected, and their love kind of continues over lifetimes. And I think that was my way of kind of giving myself some hope that everything would be okay, he would come back and everything would be fine, and even if it wasn't, our love story was kind of epic and it would still be okay. And I think that just distracted me from the very real day-to-day kind of stress I was under, worrying about him and dealing with the kids and everything. So that's one way that I've put it into my writing.
I love that. Thank you so much, Camille. That's great.
You're welcome.
We're going over to question number 3. It's common for villains or character struggles to be etched from the writer's reality. Have you done this panel? If so, how did you do it? And if not, where do you draw from to give your story some terrible? Mr. David.
Well, that's not something I really do myself. I guess I see it a little bit more like acting or something like that, where the story pulls the emotions that it requires instead of me pushing the emotions into it. So if I need to draw upon emotions from a scene, I think about how I felt in a similar situation, or a situation that drew a similar amount of emotion, and try to work on it in that fashion, rather than really looking at it as I'm going to channel the characters through me.
Okay. So I mean, has there ever been an instance where it doesn't necessarily have to be recent, but where something has happened in your life and you're just thinking, man, that would be a really, really great thing. Well, not great, but that would be a good thing for a character to have gone through. Or maybe while you're writing a character, if you have that in the back of your head, because some things they get lost in context, or their words never hit the page, but in the back of your mind, you have it to where, oh, this character suffered from this, and that's why this person is this way. Have you ever had an instance like that where you're just kind of thinking, oh, I remember when this happened to me, and the reason why this kid is so just ridiculously in need of attention is because, in 3rd grade there was a bully who pulled down his pants and stole his lunch money. And that's not anything that happened to me as a child. But, I'm just, is there something, like a for instance, that you have where you just kind of say, hey, that would be a great aspect for a character?
Not really. There is a work that I had planned to do, and I never actually got around to. And it largely worked in a whole thing about dealing with this elderly dog I owned who was extraordinarily sickly and in need constantly. But I never actually did it, and I don't know. As I say, I usually use the smaller things in my life, and I'll turn a small fear into a major phobia for a character or something like that.
I love that. That's fears and phobias. Yeah, I like that. I like that a lot. Rita.
So yes, I definitely draw plot points from things that have happened to me or my friends, or things in the greater world that we see through the news. But those are really just like details, because I think that every human action and reaction, and bear with me here, I'm going to get a little philosophical maybe, but can be summed up by Maslow's hierarchy of needs. So once the basic needs of food, shelter, and safety are fulfilled, the biggest struggle that lies beneath every character's surface is the need to be loved and included. And the funny thing is, if you go on to, I think it was the Wattpad romance profile that tweeted out today something almost to that same effect. I'm going to have to find that and retweet it after this. But to me, that is at the core of the hero, the anti-hero, or the outright villain struggles, and how we, as authors, package that in our writing is just really an embellishment. It's the details that we add to that.
Yes, of course, because I think every single piece that you put onto a character, whether it's a flaw or something that works into their advantage, or just a little minute detail, it just gives them a little bit more shape, a little bit more depth, and somewhere on there, you are going to connect with somebody. And I think that's great when, especially, you have, let's say, your protagonist, and something just out of the ordinary happens, and the way they deal with it is because of something, very small that happened to them in their life, and then a reader is just going to say, wow, I can totally relate to that because this happened or that happened. And I know that all of you have probably had conversations with people on Wattpad where they share part of their lives with you. They share personal stories and anecdotes and things that, maybe they've drawn from it. Maybe they said, wow, I'm so glad that you said this, because I know with Sarah, who writes a lot of race, she doesn't play to the stereotypes, which is probably something that I'm hoping that you have people from Egypt reading your work.
Oh, I do.
Because, it's not stereotypical, and I think that's one of the greatest things, is the fact that she can connect with people not just because, oh yeah, this person is part Egyptian, but because of what she does, how she does it, and why she does it. So that's got to feel really, really great. I'm going to skip over to Camille.
Yes. So just for the villains part, I absolutely, basically, if you've wronged me somewhere in life, yes, I'm going to steal something about you and put it in my book. I kind of feel like...
This is the answer I was hoping for. I'm so glad you're here.
Sorry, I went that shallow. No, I kind of feel like writers are like comedians. Our life and our people in it are fair game. And so, I've never, literally taken a person in life and just transferred them over to the page. But I've certainly used, a first name or a certain, particularly insulting comment I remember someone spewing, or absolutely, yeah, I've drawn from it.
Are there readers that really pick up on that and say, wow, that felt real, or just kind of connected with it in the way that you wanted it to, or is it just something that you slipped in there just, not just to get that little for yourself, but yeah, just like I said, to give the character a little bit more dimension?
Yeah, I think a lot of readers connected to my villains are people. They're not these outlandish, super creative, fun villains. So they're just regular people. So they have many different levels to them and facets. They're not just evil. So, But, you know, I think that it's easy to relate. I mean, everyone's dealt with someone they haven't really meshed with in some level. So it's really easy for all of us to relate to someone putting us down or throwing a snarky comment our way. I mean, we've all had it happen.
Yeah, if you haven't, then you're incredibly
Then you're lucky.
And you're proud or beautiful and rich or what, something. I don't know. Sarah, you got anything to add to this?
Yeah, absolutely. I think that there are pieces of me probably in every character I write. Some maybe more so than others. And yeah, definitely. That is the fun of writing villains and other characters, is that you can bring in, if you have someone you don't like, or some people have done something to you, like this week, you know, our internet was out like 3 days at the house, so I can totally like use that. You know, I mean, I was like ticked, you know, and so like, yeah, by all means, you know, it's that's part of the fun of a writer, is that you can just bring in elements of the everyday and work them into your superhero, or into your superheroes, I guess, or your villains, or your, you know, just have fun with it. Well, I'll give you an example with my Shadow Queen. You know, I am not one of those people that likes just totally black villains. They're kind of boring to me. I mean, they're fun, but they're boring. You know, it's kind of, they're always going to be evil. So I'm always like throwing new elements of the story out. So you might start out hating this person, but then you'll learn some things as to why they developed the way they did. And so you start to feel like, oh, okay, well, that kind of makes sense. And then they do something awful, like terrible. And you're like, oh, I hate them again. And so it's like taking your readers back and forth between hating your characters and then, oh, well, maybe they're okay. And then, oh, no, I hate them again. It's just kind of messing with their emotions is a lot of fun. So
has anybody given you backlash on that? Has anybody said, Sarah, what are you doing with my life? I can't deal with this, too intense.
I don't. Yes, I get it all the time. Yeah, but as long as they keep coming back, I don't care. So it's working then. But yeah, like, so for example, the Shadow Queen, you know, she's like, if to bring it from me, you know, she's terribly ambitious, and I actually relate a lot to that, just in the way of wanting to really accomplish something with her life, something, you know, become important. And it's not that I necessarily want to be an important person, but I do want to accomplish important things with my life and feel like I've done something. And the difference between her and me lies in how far we're willing to go to accomplish that. So, you know, like, I'm not planning to kill people anytime soon, whereas she's like, yeah, whatever she needs to do to accomplish what she does. So, you know, most of the really evil stuff comes from my imagination, you know, which I guess that should be scary.
Yeah. Really. I don't know if that's premeditated murder. I don't know. I'm not gonna go there. That's fine. Do you ever say to yourself, like, okay, the reason why I've gone in this direction is, I mean, because if it comes from your imagination, it's got to stem from something.
I guess.
I guess it's kind of a question for everyone too. I know, Sarah, I definitely want you to finish, but while we have kind of our focus here, is there something that, I don't know, that you've read that kind of inspired you, or that you just experienced and said, because I know a lot of people, they'll watch the news, or they'll watch a movie, or they'll read a book, and it'll change something in them as far as the way that they look at things. Is there something that has done that for you, to kind of give your imagination that little, you know, to get there?
Yeah, absolutely, I'm sure. I don't know that I've consciously thought too much about it, but I think, you know, Darth Vader was a big formation for me in terms of what I mean, I used to be terrified of him when I was a kid, and then as I grew older, the way I viewed him changed with time. You know, and so that's just like one example. Others, I've always found it fascinating, for example, when you like read statements from terrorists or hear what they say, and they never believe that they're terrorists. They're so like drawn into this ideology that they are 100% sure that what they are doing is the right path for them, and it's chilling for me, to be honest, that people can, you know, go on that path, or for example, you know, the Nazis or whatever, they go so far down this path that they are 100% sure of like the moral correctness of their choice, and on the outside everyone's saying no, this is terrible, you know. And so I think that these types of things, you know, like real life, and also many characters that I've seen on movies or read in books or TV shows, have definitely kind of come together to like view or to form my viewpoint when it comes to forming characters, especially villains.
Oh yeah, absolutely. I'm so glad. Now I kind of interrupted you like right in the middle of this great statement that you had. Is there anything else that you want to talk about, like as far as the terrible turns or people who have been a little mean to you that you've figured out a way to channel this into a writing?
No, I think I pretty much covered most of that. You know, I don't have a method or anything. It's just like it's more so I'm writing a lot and I'm thinking, what's just something crazy out there they could do? Oh my goodness. Okay, well let's go with it. You know, and so if it intrigues me, if it interests me, I run with it and see. And then the great thing about Wattpad is, of course, you could throw it out there and see how it flies, and go from there.
Sure, absolutely. Now, Sarah brought up a really, really great archetype. His name was Darth Vader, also known as Anakin Skywalker. Camille, do you have anybody that you've kind of drawn from that it was just something that floored you when you experienced it, whether it was on screen or on a page or what have you? But is there something in particular that really got you, wow, that is what I call a villain?
Oh, for a villain? God, there's so many good villains out there. I think that I can't really think of a name of a specific one, but I have always had a thing for like kind of, oh God, what's her name from, I'm losing her name. Like the strict woman with like really proper kind of villain. Am I making any sense right now?
No. It's like, I know what you're talking about, too.
Nurse Ratched?
Yes, thank you! Oh, my mind went blank. Yes, like that kind of villain always petrifies me. Someone who has, like, your fate in their hands. So, and the fact that they're totally believable as someone you could run into. So, like those type of characters, and there are many of them on both the screen and books, they always kind of appeal to me, and I think I draw from a lot of them.
That's awesome. That's great. David, do you have somebody in particular that you use, I guess, to channel everything?
I don't know if I use any, but just from this discussion, made me think of like one of my favorite villains is, I think his name was Benjamin Linus from Lost.
Ooh, yeah.
And what I loved it is, like what Sarah was saying, is just that conviction of what I'm doing is right, and sometimes you start wondering maybe he is right,
Which is kind of a scary thing. I mean, in all honesty, when you start agreeing with the bad guy, it's a little blurry. Rita.
Yeah, when things start to get gray and you don't know. Well, maybe his point of view is the right one.
There's nothing awkward about that, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. Rita, what do you got for us?
Well, I personally don't like writing villains too much. I mean, I know that some stories definitely need an antagonist in that role, but I try to minimize them as much as I can. I actually like anti-heroes a lot better, and maybe it's just because I think their possible redemption arc is a lot more interesting to write, and kind of going back to what Sarah was saying, that you can kind of tease your readers of making them hate them and then kind of doubt themselves and then hate them again, but in the end turn their story around, and the readers are finding that it's one of their favorite characters, or that they love them, or they've been able to understand them and forgive them. So I find that a lot more interesting than just a plain old villain.
Sure, absolutely. And I love the fact that you brought up the anti-hero, because it's something that we actually have never addressed in a Quarter Booth episode. Rita, can you expound on what an actual anti-hero is supposed to do?
Well, I think an anti-hero, it's what the name is. So he's not necessarily, I mean, it's a major role, and it's somehow antagonistic toward the main character, but they do have a redemption arc. So it's someone you love to hate, and then you start understanding who they are, what their motivations are, and they're not perfect by any means, but they're real and they're understandable, and they serve that purpose in the story. So that's how I understand an anti-hero to be.
No, sure, absolutely. And the other great thing is the fact that you don't necessarily have to have an antagonist. I know that there's several great stories out there where it's all about the situation, where it's more man versus external things that are not or anything else but man. You have tons of wilderness stories about survival, and it's just the circumstance themselves are what you're fighting for uphill. And I'm sure that those people who have written stories like that are definitely drawing from their pool of emotions, because that's what gives that one person that's like them against the world, that person that's them. They got to have some sort of inner workings, so on and so forth. We're running right close to the end of this broadcast, which gives us time to go over to Pass the Salt. Panel, thank you so much for being so wonderful so far. I know that Rita was saying, yeah, these questions are really hard, but I'm glad you answered them beautifully. Very, very, very well done. So, Pass the Salt, ladies and gentlemen, is just an honest observation, opinion, quote, or factoid in 140 characters or less. And after sharing theirs, I'm hoping that the panel shares them on Twitter using our hashtag TCVWhat. Feel free to favorite and retweet them as you will. We'll love it when you interact with us, not only on the live chat, and yes, I did see the whole thing. I don't know how you guys got on a wild tangent of boob hair.
Man.
But it happened on the live chat, so if you're watching this recording and you're wondering how they got to boob hair, you should watch the live chat too and join the conversation, no matter how scary it is. But I am going to go over to Miss Camille. What do you got for us for Pass the Salt?
Sorry, did you say me?
Yes, ma'am.
Oh, sorry, it cut out. I am right now ending my series, so I've got ending anxiety happening and how my readers are going to react to it. So this is a pretty well-known quote, but one that's been going through my head a lot. It's maybe it's not about the happy ending, maybe it's about the story.
Ooh.
Just putting it out there.
I like that. That's great. Mr. David J13.
I always sort of have something I'm fixating on with my writing, and right now it's about clarity, and it's about trying to just get those thoughts through as clear as you can to the reader. And my quote is actually from Nathaniel Hawthorne, and it's easy
Good strong
reading.
name.
Sorry?
Good strong name, Nathaniel.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's a good one.
And it's easy reading is damn hard writing.
Ooh, yes, that's man. Awesome. Yeah.
Very true.
He had a few good books, so I'm sure people have seen him come around. Probably in high school class. Miss Rita.
Okay, so mine is related to today's topic, and it goes, no matter how fictional a story may be, it will still be a mirror of the author, whether in his experiences, fears, or opinions.
Ooh, yes. That is great, Rita. And definitely, I love that. A mirror. That's awesome. Miss Sarah.
Yeah, this one kind of goes along with today's too, with drawing on your own experience. Don't be afraid to tell it raw. It will resonate with your readers.
Raw. Never, never, ever drift away from that word. That is great. I love it. I love it. I love it. I hope that you love this broadcast too. Check us out next week, same time, same great channel. We're hoping that you're subscribing to us, and you'll be the first person to know when we have these live events. Episode 29 is called Moderation in Moderation. Adulting, it's a real thing, and that next week the panel's going to discuss how they balance the real world with the worlds they build. We're super excited to bring you that next week. We do have our buddies over at the Word Nerds. If you want to check out their channel, Jody Petrella has a lot of their information. They're doing, I believe, some NaNoWriMo prep, if I'm not mistaken. So if you're really excited about the month of November and the craziness that's about to ensue, go check that out. We've had so much fun with you tonight, and we hope you do come back next week. Panel, if you'd please say good night.
Good night.
Bye, guys.
Good night, everybody.
Good night.
Thanks for watching.